Thank you very much to the audience to stay at the last panel of InsurTech Rising. I have the honor to be moderator of this interesting panel. Let me welcome my panelist team. Edi Tuhirman, CEO of Generali Indonesia. Tim Hardcastle from CEO Instanda. Evangelos Avramakis, Head of Digital Ecosystem of Swiss Re, and Roland Woerle, COO of Aon Austria and CEE. Let's applaud my panelists, please. So, as you know, the current customer increasingly desire new ways of purchasing insurance and managing risk, including more fit-for-purpose coverage and services and more immediately delivery, and our fully new sales and marketing opportunities. And my first question will be, why the topic future of distribution is InsurTech a sever or trace resonate with you? And what does it mean clearly for your firm? Roland, could you start?
Hello, everyone. Just one correction. It says I'm CEO for Aon. I have been working in the insurance broking industry for the past 15 years with Marsh and Aon. Just left a couple of months ago and now setting up my own consultancy business in insurance. But answering your questions, Xavier, is in the view from a distribution, from an intermediary, I would say there's sort of three main customer segments I would differentiate. In the large corporate space, I think there is still a much relationship business which will dominate the distribution. But as you go down in the SME and the consumer space, the InsurTechs will play a much bigger part already today. And as there's lower premiums and lower income streams, the companies who have to do best will be those who can actually leverage a very sort of lean distribution at low cost and actually hitting this very targeted offerings to customers.
Thank you, Roland. And what else to add, Evangelos?
Interesting, the last 2 days we were talking about InsurTech, FinTech, but we were not talking about the customer. So there was no session about, what's going to be relevant in the future from a customer perspective. We'd still try to fix the past, but we'd not try to develop the kind of future thinking and setup. So when we think about what will be the future kind of mobility customer, so how do you want to move from A to B to C to D in a very seamless and very convenient way, and how do we integrate we as insurance companies to this kind of future channels that might be relevant for those customers? Perhaps we might need to change the way we approach the customers in the future, because some of the touch points might change and some of the touch points might change fundamentally compared to how we offer the products and services for now. So just as an example, do you have access to your health records? And if health records contains a lot of health data, who can do something with your health data in order you do more of predictive kind of intervention, stuff like that? So although the data is there, you don't have access and there's no interaction going on with the data actually you own. So the future kind of challenge might need to change that, because we need to make the most outcomes of those kind of insights in order to be very relevant at the kind of interaction. So if you'd ask me about the future channels will be the ones that are really relevant for the customers, where the customers are there from a natural touchpoint perspective. And perhaps this might change over time because some of the touchpoints might not be owned by insurance companies anymore.
Tim?
Hello. Hello, everyone. Well done. You're at 4:15 and you made it. You made it to the end of the conference. Fantastic. I hope we keep you entertained. We were told to say some controversial things to you today. Are you still awake at the top? Wave a hand. Yeah, great. Okay, good. We're on a good straight. Okay, so we have in the panel here, we have a former broker who's defending the role of the broker, which is Roland's role. And then Evangelos is manifesting the customer proposition and trying to fight for, it's not about the broker's role, it's about what's best for the customer. So my job as CEO and co-founder of Instanda is to promote. Doesn't matter whether Roland wins or Evangelos wins, technology is going to be part of the answer, so I'm very happy. I think to give you an InsurTech perspective, we're quite fortunate because we, having previously run technology at a big international insurer that was insuring space satellites and oil rigs, and those kinds of risks, with all due respect to Evangelos, are never going to be easy to digitize and to give a great customer experience because they are very complicated. The technology that's required is more like decision support. It's not something that you can do on a straight-through process insurance basis to insure space satellites, right? Yeah. We know this, okay? When you come down the other end of the spectrum, however, into personal lines, some of the smaller types of risks, or even into SME, then Evangelos is very correct. There are some really exciting initiatives that we see in many countries across the world where when you put customer centricity at the forefront of the design process to say how should that be for the customer, then there are some really exciting opportunities around much deeper immersion into the retail experience, for example, around the way the insurance products are distributed. We're working with some startups that are looking to immerse motor car insurance into the purchasing of cars, for example. It's not a new idea, but the technology is available to allow this, and you then start to realize that at the point of sale for the car, the financial products, whether it's leasing and the insurance products, again, this is not new, but it's much more interesting how you can get a closer, intimate connection with the customer and make it easy for them to buy something like motor insurance. And the technology is around today. We're working on a couple of those initiatives, and we see them in many other countries as well. I think the premise, though, is we have to think about the industry quite much more broadly than maybe to do today, and I think Evangelos has got another good point. Our spectrum of companies that we work with are quite broad. We're fortunate to work with some really exciting startups, but we also work with some big, mature carriers that are trying to find ways to do their business differently. And I think the challenge is every case that we come across or use case has a context. So we've just gone live with a MGA it's been a digital MGA set up by an insurer. The insurer's got legacy systems. It decided to create a greenfield site and leverage the best technology around. Very customer-centric because it's making it easier for the consumer to purchase the product. It's a life and health product. By contrast, we also have carriers that we're working with in the specialty lines. There's one company based in New York. It's a very complex risk profile. The ratings are very complicated. And the issue there isn't about the technology straight through processing that. It's actually about the psychology of helping the underwriters go through the change process of using a more modern platform to allow them to straight through process. So everything I think has a context, but I think my message is from my side and looking at it in the world of Instanda and the clients that we have, technology is not, I'll repeat, not the constraint. There is everything you want to do and imagine is possible with the technology available today. It's more around the context that you're in and what you're trying to achieve and your propositions, your customer base, and the kind of risk that you're trying to distribute.
Okay. Eddie?
Okay, I'm so lucky. I think it's the four of us. I'm the one who have experience startup because of I know the friends over there, dog startup. Don't worry, my friend. I also started the company 11 years ago. I started the company as a first employee to make it up. Now, we have 400 employees. We have 11,000 agents. We have more than 300,000 customers. I have seen this, the progression, this distribution. So that's why when we discussed, actually before that, what a job of CEO. I said, job of CEO now, this is my job. Looking at the future, what the right tools, what the right product, what the right, in the future, the right distribution. Because of just simple thing. Look at the fish. Don't even thinking of insurance. We have a fish, so many fish in the ocean. How to catch the fish? It doesn't mean that only one tool that we have to using a fishing route. It is many ways to do it. It really depends on the what kind of fish that we're going to catch. The same thing with insurance. Depend on what segment we're looking for, what the need. I agree totally with you, Evangelos, because of at the end, a customer are the core. The channel is the way, how to capture. How to serve. Technology is just matter of enabler. It cannot be so. Is that thing to be InsurTech as become threat? No, I don't think so. Become safer. Give example. I don't know you are familiar or not. In my country, we have a 265 million population. The size of millennial that we have, I think, even as big as German population, 80 million. So that, how are we going to capture that market? Are we going to use the agent using the traditional method? It's no way. Why? The premium is so low, it's no way. No agent would like to go to that market, which a premium about €2 per month. That InsurTech will go with it. Just so it depends on the risk customer and the right product. For sure, technology will become safer for us. Without that, it's almost impossible. So I be a strong belief, we have to be hand in hand. Insurance is a long-term game. When you are a startup company, you're looking for InsurTech, looking for short-term, looking for valuation short-term. I don't know, is that right industry for you or not? Because this is an industry that we're talking about next generation. Whatever I buy policies for life, I'm talking about the life policies. We're talking about the future generation. You have enough bread to run for marathon. That is our business in life insurance. We are no marathon. We are not short-term game. Valuation, yes, important. I understand that. Running a CEO, how I turn the company within, I have to make profit. So now, even after 7 years, now return back all the burning capital, return back to the shareholder. Otherwise, I think they will kick me out. That's short-term that we're talking about, but long-term, I think it's very important. So I think this is a business which is a very sexy, very interesting. If you are looking long-term, focus customer very important.
So everybody agree to focus on the customer, but before nobody talk about the customer. Insurance incumbent waited the competition of InsurTech in order to focus on, to come back on the need of customer. And my question is, what kind of initiative do you take in your own company? Because we have more or less 3 representatives of a big insurance company to more or less compete with this InsurTech startup to catch up new client or to keep it.
Well, I think the industry is a bit flawed, to be a bit controversial, because when you look again in the intermediaries or the brokers, they have to work in the interest of the customer, but getting paid by the insurers. So in the Nordics, where I've been for a few years, the governments put a complete commission ban in, and so you had to earn every single dollar or euro or whatever krona they had there from the customer. So you really had to show the value, what you can actually provide, and that you work in the interest of the customer, otherwise you were out immediately. Now, in most parts of the rest of Europe, there's a very strong lobby against that model, and the insurance industry and the intermediaries are still making very good profit with the renewable insurance policies, and they are sort of ring-fencing their portfolio of clients. And as we have heard it a number of times during those 2 days, is insurance companies do actually not care about the customers. They care about their loss ratio and combined ratio, and they care about their distribution partners, the agents and the brokers. Now, when you say, Xavier, when new startups, InsurTechs are coming in place, for instance, like we heard from VFox this morning, and they come up with a completely different play, a much more appealing product, much more tailored to the needs of the customers, then suddenly there's a wake up. And the shifting generations, the young people sort of not wanting to see a broker coming into their home and telling them 2 hours and to push a product down the line. It needs to be much more meaningful. The solutions need to be much more sort of tailored into the lifestyle of the individual. They need to be much more meaningful and value generated than just a product push of an annual insurance policy where 90% of the coverage you actually never need, and the cover you do need you don't get when you have a claim. So I'm a bit exaggerating, but I think there's a lot to actually rethink what is the customer need and how can we make it relevant.
Perhaps looking in the history, I mean, we developed some great products where we had no customers, so we needed sales channels in order to push the product to the customers. So this is how we made our business. With the introduction of the internet, we found that selling something through online channels need to be very simple and very simplistic, otherwise people don't buy it. And the penetration rate through online channels are still very low. Why? Because the product is still too complicated and too complex. So you need still need kind of agents and brokers in between. So in the future, this kind of complexity is not demanded anymore, because so far you customize your products towards your channel and not towards your customer. And this is why everything is so complicated. When I think about life insurance policies in combination of pension funds, way too complicated. Nobody really gets that, right? So you need to go back to the agent and say, what did I buy exactly? And this is our fault, because we don't really are focusing on to provide value to the end customer, right? In the future, when some touch points might change now and might be more relevant, the question is how do we integrate the value proposition on this new kind of touch points? We need to forget our past in order to create the future. So we'll still listen to whatever we were listening the last 10, 20 years, we might miss the opportunity to create the new kind of channels to be relevant and the proposition for the future. So I'm a little bit struggling between how to preserve the history and still create the future, and perhaps this is not going to be done very easily in the same company and with the same mindset, because you need to change the way to think about the problem.
You know why? Because the life insurance, sorry, I cut. Because the life insurance business, when you are a major company, you are carrying a lot of your portfolio. If you are destroying that portfolio, it will kill you. So that's why I said, I'm so lucky, I set up the business from zero. I don't have a baggage. So what happened? All these things because of people. Give you example what we do. I think in Europe, you have experienced is an interest rate become your big problem. Whether you like it or not, you're going to go to unit link because of, I have seen in Japan, I've seen in Taiwan, now it's happening in Germany, in France, you're going to go for a unit link. Problem with unit link, we figure it out. Yes, the risk will become the customer risk, not the company risk anymore. But how we find out that? Even the team, the people in our team figure it out. They say, okay, we as a customer, when we look at the unit link, okay, risk with us, then we ask ourselves, do we have the knowledge of the investment? If we do have the knowledge of investment, do we have time to monitor our portfolio? No. If we do have that two things, you have the knowledge, you have the time, do we have discipline to execute, to rebalance your asset? The answer is no. So what happened? Our team, because we don't have the baggage, we create a robo, which is robo investment, are helping the customer put every policy, put a robo, so kind of InsurTech in the area to manage a portfolio, to manage asset allocation. So let the robo do, because of what? Robo has a knowledge. We put a human being, put a knowledge on that area. The robo have the time and execute discipline according to the model. What happened? We launched at beginning of the year until today, thanks to my team, we able to beat the index. Everybody who has that, 25% of portfolio now, being in robo, they beat the index.
That's fine on the investment side, right?
Yeah.
So when you put the robo, but how does the product changes over the life cycle of the customer? So when you get married, when you get first kid, second kid, when you get retired,
Exactly.
when you get, so how do you get the insights in order to change the value proposition on the product to add an additional feature or service or to remove one of them? So we don't like to remove the premium, but my question is, if we really have personalized products, then we need to get the information from personalized channels. And we're far away from that, far away.
That is very true. So that's why we do have the data analytic team to do analysis. We have the CRM, and the product that we create, we just like, I don't know, you guys who's familiar know with Lego. And Lego in my old days, my kid, they play Lego and plug and play. So that is the purpose of Unit Link. Unit Link, you can take out the rider here, put here and there, just like a modular product that is discussed with this morning. That's the purpose. When you have the information, you have the data analytic, you have the product set, you're able to do, and you have a human on that to be in the middle, and then technology behind. So because of the agent have the technology to serve the customer. He knows exactly what managing my portfolio, the data, telling them the proportionality of the need of the customer is a beauty. I think we are in line in that area. Because of customer, without them, who are paying my customer? Who pay my salary? You think company? No, customer paying my salary. So I have to serve them. I have to understand what they need to do extra effort to able to serve them. The only way to be survive in this business.
Well, I can see it on some of the travel policies where it gets a bit more sort of on demand. You enter the airport, you get triggered. What do you want to buy, for how long is it? Is it really relevant for your trip and your situation? Now, when you come obviously to the long tail insurance policies on the life side, that's a completely different challenge, and I think we are far not there anyway.
I don't agree on that at all. Not at all. I mean,
tell me
why?
No.
Why?
I mean, if you look at the tech investment from tech companies, what they try to do, if you look at what Amazon is investing, but how Google is investing, how Apple is investing, there's no way you can even get any glimpse of the data they can extract from you, right?
I'm lucky. We are lucky because of insurance business is very regulated. I discussed with the guy from Google, Amazon. Why they're not coming to this area?
No, they will
Can
come.
you imagine?
No,
you come to any country, you have all regulatories.
They will come. I mean, if you see the pipelines, where they're going to and how they're going to invest, they almost invest in the same areas. If you look at the pipeline, please follow CB Insights, whatever they do. It's very clear that they will enter the health insurance and life insurance industry for sure. So that's not the problem. The question is, how do we respond to that, we as an insurance company?
Exactly.
Because if touch points might change, how do we stay relevant? So as another point, my son is 70 years old, and I tell him when he gets older, he might not need a car anymore to buy one, because he can order the car through voice something, and he will get back home. And then his problem is, Father, how does he get into the apartment? No, it's not like, how can I order it? How will he get? So things will change, and if we think about how to plug in the insurance into this kind of autonomous cars, that might be the right question to ask. And what would be the relevant touch points that we stay relevant in this kind of interactions? And what, yeah.
Exactly. And the beauty of innovation at the moment is how incubator insurance now use the technology to compete with this new competitor. It could be a telecom company in some countries. It could be FANG. It could be some InsurTech startups. What do you prepare, and how do you fight against that?
Don't fight, don't compete. Be cooperation with them, because we have a two area. They are strong in data. They're strong in information, but we have something else. You can sometimes, just like what our grandfathers say, if you cannot compete with them, be friend with them, tight up with them. So that's the way. You look at Chong'an, look at Ping An. What they do? They're not competing. They are hand in hand. Cooperation with this. That's the only way. The market is so huge. Why we have to compete? Be friend.
With a team,
What are you talking about competing?
You can be friend with team.
Well, I think that it's just really simple. I mean, I was just enjoying the discussion. I'm glad you missed me, because I've forgotten what the question was you asked. I was just listening to the debate. But the point was, from my perspective, when we think about the future of insurance, and there's been some really fantastic perspectives around customer centricity, the ability to follow the lifestyle changes of the individuals, I think the key for me is, what is insurance? If we think about the industry and the capabilities, the core competency of insurance, it's certainly not software engineering, right? So for those companies out there that have tried to build their own platforms, you really need to get with the program. There's a world out there of where technology is I've worked with big corporates. I've been fortunate to sit in board of 3 separate boards and finish my time on an insurance company board. And insurance, their core capabilities is, and if they're going to be successful, as the panelists are commenting, it will be about the way in which they can engage with their customers from a very centric perspective, live their lives and understand what their needs are, and start to build insights around the data that is available to allow them to provide very personalized propositions in a frictionless way. And it's the risk management and the risk pricing and the risk profiling that is part of the core capability, along with the customer centricity. It is not building technology platforms. So I think one of your earlier points was, how does a carrier compete with InsurTech? It can't. I mean, I've been in corporate sides. I know how corporate technology functions work. I know how the budget process works. I know how intense it is just to keep the lights on and just to do the basics. And InsurTechs are born of a completely different environment. Having started one myself, I'm now running for 7 years. The intensity of a company trying to make progress, get market traction, and build great technology products, there's no way any corporate on the planet can mimic that from an insurance perspective. So you've got to be looking at the insurance technology, InsurTech community as an absolute ally to your strategy, because there's no way you can create that internally. The opportunity, though, as you say, is to partner. And Eddie, I like what you're saying already, so we're more than happy to help you in there.
May I just add something, Tim, to your comment? I agree that as a partnership. Now with InsurTech, there's also 2 kinds. There's the real tech players, which really need to partner with the insurance companies. There's also other InsurTechs, which are registered or licensed insurance companies, and they hire insurance people to really have a new proposition on the market. And they will compete with the traditional insurance players. But for me, the key is actually to be relevant to the customer. And it's much less of just a policy and the risk transfer. It's much more you have to engage.
Let's explore that. Let's explore that for a minute, because let's explore that. So when we think about tech companies, or the heart of an insurance business being technology centric, right? So it's formed out of a view about being able to digitize and actually get the whole proposition to market. The key thing that they're missing is brand and trust, right? So you think about the budgets, the marketing spend. And one of my former employers was spending, it's not a lot of money, but in the context of the size of the company, it was spending 10 to 12 million a year just in the UK, just on marketing, for a company that had been in existence for 70, 80 years, to build the brand, the trust, the confidence. Because ultimately, whatever we talk about customer centricity, the customer has got to feel safe and secure in that they're going to get a product that will deliver, whether it's a unit linked or whether it's actually recovering my problem. And therefore, I'm very, very skeptical of startup tech going into insurance. I mean, we'll see whether Lemonade is going to be successful, because they've got, 300 million, but I still don't think that's enough to build a global convincing brand. I think, Evangelos, maybe I'll be right. Some of the established brands, whether it's Apple, Ping An, some of these other companies that are operating at a scale, massive scale already, who have got great stickiness with their customer base, may well enter into the insurance market, particularly life and health, and they can leverage their brand. But I'm not convinced at all about digital technology startups trying to go direct in the insurance space. It just doesn't in my mind just play out properly.
I think you are right. It's given the fact that the experience that I have. Say, if I started 11 years ago, named Eddie Insurance, I would not able to make it until today. It's no way. Because we carry the name of the brand Generali, that makes us different. Because of branding, because of the trust. Insurance, I'm talking about life. It's a long-term game. Who are going to give money? Because at the end, I give a customer, I give money to insurance company. Insurance company only give me promise and piece of paper. How am I going to trust a company? What happens if my money is gone? I'm talking big money.
May I also challenge that?
Please.
Everybody's using Spotify. Do you know the brand name of the server the music is uploaded? Do you really care about the brand name, whether it's the IBM? So the question is, when we plug in our products to other kind of touch points, is it so relevant that we as a brand are still there? Yeah. Or is it more the interaction that has the brand because they fulfill a great service.
Then I give it you. How much you pay for the Spotify? I don't give a damn. 50 cents, $1, $3 gone, be it. But we're talking about $100,000 US. You put the money, $100,000 US. Then somebody gives you a piece of paper. The somebody name is Eddie Tuhirman. Are you trust me? You give me $100,000 US. Now I give you a piece of paper. Do you trust me? Spotify, $1, $2. They say gone, be it. I don't care.
Yeah,
you see, that is a different. The ticket item that we discuss here is a different thing. Unless the insurance company, InsurTech, go to small premium, that is very simple product. People say, you know what? I don't care. Let me try. Let me try Eddie Cola. I'm not buying Coca-Cola. I buy Eddie Cola. It's okay. It's a cheap. Nothing. You know, $1, €1 gone. Be it. Throw the money away. Try something new. This is a millennial way of thinking.
Eddie, let me just make one statement. I fully agree that insurance is a trust business, and that the big established brands, you know, they show a symbolism of trust. If they have a big skyscraper with the MetLife or AXA or whatever written on top of it, or
Generali.
But on the same time, we all made experiences where we get disappointed of claims not being paid when we wanted it, where they are not necessarily acting in the interest of the customer. So that trust, you know, is only just physically, but it's not really emotionally. So I'm wondering, with new generations coming in, they're accessing trust in a completely different way, to your point. And what we believed was right in our generation may not be there for the future. So it's just my sort of statement to challenge that as well.
I think we will finish on these last words, because we can go on a few hours like this. Thank you so much to my panelists. Let's applaud all these gentlemen, please. Thank you.